Welcome every got it. Welcome everyone. My name is Charlene Iboshi. I'm with the Senior Counsel Division, and I'm the Hawaii Island rep. We're lucky enough today to have for our coffee hour a speaker named Annette Kam, and she's written a book called Wait, 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 Don't Die Yet. She has the heart to help people to get through suffering. She worked as a nurse for 42 years at Kapiolani as the mother baby care on the mother bear care unit. And she also started a nonprofit for many years to help people with fibromyalgia to handle their suffering. So she knows how to guide people through simple ways to overcome suffering. She authored a book called Wait, Don't Die Yet. And she's going to share her firsthand knowledge of her personal caregiver story and her subsequent mission to educate the public about the importance of getting their affairs in order ahead of time to provide and prevent heartbreak. She will tell you about her experience following the passing of her in-laws and how she realized she needed a new mission. And that mission is to help people to prepare for their own death, but not in just getting simple legal documents done, but getting all the details prepared ahead of time. She will provide to you through this presentation a complete guide to all things no one really wants to think about, but everyone needs to know about death, before death, during, and after a loved one's passing. And her mission now is to educate us that getting prepared is necessary. And she will provide you all the tools to make it easier for us to prepare for our own passing and those of our loved ones to prevent suffering and heartbreak. She has been featured in publications, podcasts, TV, and does presentations, and offers her ebook, and she'll be talking about that today. So welcome, Annette Kam. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Charlene. I'm just thankful for the invitation to be here and to be able to share my latest mission, my latest passion for the last 2 years. I think what we're going to be talking about today is not a super popular topic. Maybe for attorneys, it's great because that's how you get your business in some way when people actually get to the point where they need help. But as a whole, the layperson this is not a popular topic. Who wants to talk about end of life or getting their affairs in order, right? But today I want to show you or maybe expose you to what I believe, what you do as attorneys are very important, obviously. The paperwork, the legal paperwork is very important. But on the other hand, I want to show you the flip side of the mundane things that people never, ever think about when looking at the end of life, getting the affairs in order. So my goal today is hopefully to prepare you and to prepare your clients to get to that point where they can actually be at peace when their time comes to pass on. I don't know how many of you here believe you're going to live forever. Probably nobody, right? We're all going to die. So if we all know that one day we will die, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, 10 years from now, why is it that it's so hard to get things ready so that when you do pass, you know that your loved ones are taken care of and they can have the peace that they actually need at a time when they're grieving, right? So today, I believe I'm hoping my talk will resonate with you in one of two ways. One is that it will mirror what many of you have gone through or many of our clients have gone through and wish that you had never gone through it because it's been a rough time. Or it's going to open up your eyes to make you realize that, hey, maybe I don't have everything in order when I thought I had everything in order. I believe that experience is a really good teacher, but learning through the experience of others is also, so it's so much easier to learn through the experience of others, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So with that in mind, let me share my screen. Okay, the title of today's topic is Wait, Don't Diet, and it's getting affairs in order to avoid personal heartache. It's a personal caregiver story that led to a mission that I have. In this photo, is a photo of Generations Magazine, an article, one of the first articles done on my book, and I was just so thankful that they were led to believe in my mission. Oh, I'm not sure why hang on, not sure why my screen is not going down. Oh. Now, let me try get out again and try. I'm not sure why my screen is not moving. Oops. Okay, well, I'm going to do it another way, hopefully. You see a little strain that is happening. I'm sorry, hang on. Uh-oh. Desmond, are you able to help me out here? I'm not sure why it's not working.
When you went to full screen, could you press space bar?
I'm sorry?
Press the space bar when you're in full screen.
Okay, when I'm in full,
That's another way you transition.
let me try that. Oh, it's not even going to my slideshow now. Well, can I do this? I'll just do this if that's okay without the full screen. Would that be okay?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so anyway, this is a disclaimer, which I'm sure that many of you are familiar with as attorneys. And then this is just some, I'm sorry for that telephone. My husband's telephone is going off. Hang on, sir, hang on. Sorry, it's great to have a husband's phone go off when he's not home. But anyway, here we are again. So anyway, these are just some of the venues that I've had the privilege of being on. KITV, Aging Well, Midweek has done 2 articles. INC has done 2 articles, and basically I've been focusing on the senior clubs, senior living facilities, and financial counselors, because a lot of times, you know, your financial person will actually give you a handout and say, hey, just fill this in, check this, and you'll be fine. And today I want to show you that that's not totally true, and there's much more to it than that. Okay, so when it comes to getting your affairs in order, the question is, are my affairs in order, and am I ready, and can I be ready? Now, if you were to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself? You know, many of us think we're a 10. And I can probably assure you that we are not. Basically, a 10 is you have everything in order, so that when something happens to you, your spouse, your family can take over without any problem. On the other hand, on a scale of 0 to 1, you're not ready at all. Basically, you might have a few legal things in order, your will, your trust, but you have no idea what else needs to be done. So today I want to hopefully convince you that there's a lot of things that you don't know, and I want to just kind of like go over a few things with you to show my point. Okay. Now, when it's talking about questions to ask yourself regarding bills, there's bills, passwords. There's 4 things I have here as examples. For example, if something were to happen to you tonight and you did all the finances totally, would your spouse be able to step in and take over? Would your spouse know where the bills are? Are the bills paid by check? Are the bills paid by automatic payment by the bank? Are the bills paid by your charge card automatically? Does your spouse know this? Does your spouse even know where stamps are if you're still sending out checks? Because normally in a regular situation, a family situation, one spouse handles all the finances and the other spouse is left in the dark. So if that happens, something happens to that one spouse that knows what they're doing, what happens, right? The next category is passwords. You know, today in the technology world that we live in, so much is on the computer, and that's great, you know. However, if something were to happen to you, does your spouse know the passwords? Do you know the passwords of your spouse's computer? Even if you knew the password, do you know what files and folders to look under? So it's just kind of like food for thought, right? Another category is the motor vehicle ownership papers. And, you know, if something were to happen, does your spouse know where the ownership papers are? Does she or he know who's on the ownership papers? Is it both of you? Is it just you? Is it your business? If it is, how do you sell the car, right? And the last one, which I really like, has opened up many people's eyes, and I think as attorneys, this might even hit a little harder. If something were to happen and you left your spouse and she had your keychain, would your spouse know what the keys are for, what each individual key is for? You know, most of us know what a car key looks like. Most of us know what a house key looks like. But when you're in business for yourself, you know, as attorneys, as physicians, whatever, do they know what the other keys are for? Is it for your office? Is it for, I don't know, security box? Whatever. These are the things that, you know, what I'm bringing up here is not things that I just put out of the air. I lived through all of these, and I know that this is not the way to go through it. If you can avoid it, that's all I want you to do today, okay? Now, when talking about getting your affairs in order, there's many stumbling blocks. There's lack of knowledge. You know, you don't know what to do because nobody has ever taught us what to do. There's a fear of the unknown. When you try to bring it up with your spouse or your parents, they avoid the topic because they think, why are you bringing this up? I don't have a foot in the grave. So why bring it up? It's almost like a jinx if you bring it up. So, you know, there's a lot of emotions involved, and what you find out is many people just say, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to hope that I pass before my spouse passes, right? So that is not the way to address this, okay? Well, today I want to tell you about my story. But before I tell you my story, I want to preface it by saying that I believe everything that happens in life is not a coincidence, okay? I've lived my life where every time something happened, it was like, okay, there's a purpose for this, okay? Now in 1968, you can do the math yourself, but I was a junior in high school, and I spent 2 months at the hospital with a ruptured appendix, almost passed away. But because of the care that I got, I became a nurse. And this is a super old picture done, I think, in the early 70s. And you can tell it's old because of my white uniform, my nursing cap, my nursing pin, my nursing cap. Nobody wears those anymore. And then, of course, I had black hair, right? So it's a really super old picture. I worked at Kapilani, as Charlene said, for 42 years, retired in 2015, loved my job. I probably saw many of you through the birth of your own child or even grandchildren, right? This next picture is just me and Tucker Hirsch, who was our therapy dog. And then this was my last day of work. They were either celebrating my retirement or celebrating that I was leaving. But anyway, I love my job at Kapilani. Now, while I was at Kapilani in the 1980s, I came down with an illness that nobody could diagnose. And I suffered for about 10 years, finally got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but then spent another 2 years trying everything under the sun that my doctor told me to try with no help. Finally, I found a book that changed my life totally. And I went on to start a fibromyalgia support group as my way of paying it forward. We became a nonprofit in 2003, and we brought conferences down. We helped hundreds in the island and nationwide. And we were the fastest growing fibromyalgia support following this specific protocol. So, I thought I was going to be doing that for the rest of my life, because it was like my passion. However, that changed because in 2018, my in-laws, my life changed because of my in-laws. My father-in-law, who was 99 years old and in very good health, he was in such good health that he had been cooking dinner for us every Sunday night for as long as I was married. And the last dinner he cooked for us was 3 weeks before he passed away. He was also one of the most organized people that I know, because his checkbooks are balanced to the penny at age 99, believe it or not. He had taken us into his bedroom. He made it a point to educate my husband and I. 16 years before he passed away, he took us one evening after dinner into his bedroom. He showed us where the secret key was. He showed us where the secret safe was. He opened it up. In there was everything that I would ever want to have. In there he had his will, his trust, his power of attorney, advance directives. He had a funeral plan. He had his insurance papers, his pension papers. I took notes, I took pictures. And so when he passed, I felt like, okay, I can do this. My mother-in-law said, you take over. And I had no issue with that because I felt we were ready. But yet I found out that I was so wrong. Over the next 1.5 years, almost 2 years, I found out the challenges were just overwhelming. Finding out that they were not, they're not the big things. They're the mundane things that people just don't think about. I can't even tell you how many times I said, I wish I had known this. I wish I had known this. Why doesn't anybody teach us these things? So now when I am in a pinch, what I do is I take out a notebook and I start writing notes. So it was no different when my father-in-law got sick. I took out a notebook and I started writing down everything from the time that he ended up in the hospital, what the doctor said, who said what I had to bring in, what phone calls I had to make. And this went on even after he passed away. And what I found out was that, I compiled a long list, and, I'm a baby boomer, and many of my friends have husbands or spouses that are sick and passing away, or, we're at the age where our parents are sick and passing away. And so all I did was I made a list, a rudimentary list, typed it out, gave it to my friends to see if they could be helped by this. And what happened is that every single one of them came back and said, Annette, you have to write a book, because what you are sharing is so invaluable that's not out there. And then I kept thinking about it, thinking, you know what, I do, because if I can just help one person avoid what I went through, it's worth it, right? That's a good purpose to write a book. So in the middle of COVID in 2020, I did write a book, and the name of it is called Wait, Don't Diet. And it's a complete guide to all things no one really wants to think about, but everyone needs to know before, during, and after a loved one's passing. Now you may ask, why title it such a title like that? Wait, don't die yet. But I wanted to get the attention of whoever glanced at the title. When it comes to death, you can't wait. Either you're going to be ready or you're not going to be ready. Death has no pause button. And that's why I named it that, okay? Now, this is a table of contents. You're going to see that it's divided into actually 3 parts. Part 1 is my personal story. And the reason I tell my personal story is, remember how I told you financial counselors give you this handout and just say, fill it out and you'll be fine? I believe that by using my personal story and people reading my story and what I actually went through, they will identify with it and they will realize, oh my gosh, the same thing can happen to me. And that is the reason why I wrote my story in there. You will notice that part 1, my personal story, is divided into chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is before, during, after, and after the after. Part 1 segues into part 3, which is the guidebook itself, where you can fill out all the information. And it's also broken down into these sections. What I want to do is go over the sections of the book. The before section is a section of the guidebook that you fill out when you're healthy. In other words, we still have our faculties. Our parents still have their faculties. We can talk and talk sensibly and get the information that you need and write it down. Basically, it's things that you should have done by now, which majority of people have not done because they don't even know where to start. So this is things done while you're healthy. For example, a section of the book talks about medication. If you were to end up in the hospital tonight and the doctors wanted to know what medications you're on and you're unable to tell them, would your spouse know? Would your spouse know what medications you're on, the name, the dose, how often is it taken, what's it taken for? As we get older, there's a lot more medication we take. And who has time to go through the medicine cabinet and maybe those meds are up to date and maybe they're not, right? So that's an important thing, done while you're still healthy. And then there's also a section there about pets. And, the section on pets is so important because a lot of times, pets, they're just a very important piece of our lives. And, I had a friend whose friend passed away at age 58 and didn't have any family here. The friend had to do everything. She left a pet and no one knew what the pet ate, who the pet's vet was. And these are the things that, people need to know in order to pass it down to whoever comes after them, okay? The during section, I want to go back just a second because I think I missed a slide since I'm having to click on this instead. But when after I was telling you about how mundane things overwhelmed me, and I want to go over some examples, and then I'll come back to this transition period, okay? The mundane things that happened was, when I took over my in-laws, things that had to be done, I had to take over the bills, and Mom never wrote a check in her life, okay, which was not bad, I can write a check, right? Except I didn't know where the checkbook was. I had no clue where the checkbook was. My father-in-law at that time was almost incoherent, and this was just, at the tail end before he passed away. I took pictures of his desk and everything. I said, show me where the checkbook is, and he was unable to. I finally found the checkbook about 2 or 3 days later, tucked in a file cabinet way in the back where that's not where you put your checkbook, right? Remember that I was telling you that 16 years before he passed away, he had shown us about the key to the secret safe that he had in his bedroom. While I went to the secret safe, I got the key, and yet at this time, I found out that this keychain that had a single key on it, 16 years ahead of time, had now at least 15 to 20 keys, all unlabeled. So I can't even tell you how frustrating it was to have to open up this safe, which had all the important papers, which I needed right away, and I had to try every single key to open it up. One other thing that happened, and this is important. If you don't get anything out except for this is important, okay? 10 days after my father-in-law passed away, my mother-in-law's phone, the landline, broke. Okay, it was out of order. You think it's so easy, you just call the telephone company and they'll come out and fix it. However, that was farthest from the truth. When I called them, they said, we're sorry, but we can't fix your phone because your mother-in-law is nowhere on the bill or in the background. And she doesn't have the authority. The only way we can fix it is we have to wait for the death certificate of your father-in-law, which was kind of unacceptable thinking about that because we had just spent the funeral parlor and it was going to take another 4 to 6 weeks for the death certificate to come. So long story short, it took me, and this is the honest truth, it took me 29 phone calls, 3 months and getting the Better Business Bureau involved. And this is working with the head person of the customer relations at the telephone company. So, this is an important lesson to learn, okay? So let's go on. I'll go back. So as I told you before, the before section is Unwired Healthy, okay? The second section of the book is called the During section. And this is a transition period where you go from being healthy to you or your spouse needing in-home care or needing to go to a residential care home or a senior living facility. I interviewed many caregivers at this time, just to give me some hints on what I could include in the book to help people go through this, to make life easier for them as caregivers. And they were so gracious. I mean, people, when you think about safety, you think about, oh yeah, I know about the guardrails to hang on to as elderly, but it's the little things you forget. My girlfriend brought her mother in to live with her and forgot about the throw lugs, and she tripped and broke her hip. So thankfully she was okay. But this is the things that are covered in the transition period. When you're looking for a good care home, if I was to ask you, if you were looking for someplace for your spouse who needed the care, what would you be looking at as criteria for a good care facility, right? And that's an easy question. Most of the time you think, well, it's pretty easy. All I need is make sure it's kind of close to my house so I can visit. It's a nice facility. It's clean. It's safe. There's nice and friendly staff. There's somebody supervising it. There's activities to be done. And if I were to ask you, would you be happy if that's all you needed? Is that criteria good enough for you? Most people would say, yeah, I think so. Well, let me ask you a question. What if you met all this criteria, however, they never cooked the food you like? What if they only serve you Mexican food? Would you be happy? And I learned this because this happened to my girlfriend. Everything was perfect until she realized her mother wasn't eating because she didn't like the food. Okay, so this is a transition period, finding a good care home, and taking it from there, okay? And then the after period section is about the passing of your loved one. What are the next steps? How do you follow the funeral plan? How many death certificates do you need to order? And things like that, okay? And at the same time, it's not only those things, but little things like, hey, don't forget the ring on their finger before they're buried or cremated. Those are just the tiny little tidbits that are in the book that just help people think about things like that. Think about, oh gosh, I got to think about what I'm going to bury them in. And so these are things that guide you through this, okay? And then after the after section is after the passing of both spouses, and there needs to be closure for the children. What's in there is things like, when do I close the bank accounts? When do I do the tax returns? Oh, am I supposed to get an appraisal of the home? So this is in this section, but on the same token, I made it from the viewpoint of we as the one who are passing, and how can we help our children not have to pick up after us, okay? And what do I mean by that? How many of us here have a spotless house? Probably nobody, right? Well, this is my in-laws' house. That's me on the bottom getting ready to attack the kitchen, which you see in the upper right-hand corner. And it took me over 3 weeks and I couldn't finish it. And I finally gave up, I have no clue why. I'm sure many of us and many of our parents have done this. Why were there, 3, 4 dozen empty mayonnaise and jelly jars on the shelves, right? Why were there so many tools that are unusable and rusty in the garage, or paint cans that were all dried up? These are the things that we leave for our children to do, and that's just not the way to do it. If you can get it done now, get it done now. This section of the book, I also go over how to get rid of roaches, resources to call to clean up your home. This truck that you see here is by Got Junk. And that's just one of the companies that are recommended. And it took about 3 or 4 truckloads. It took 3 people 6 hours to do all the cleaning up. But they're a great company and I highly recommend them. So anyway, that's the stuff that's covered in the after, closure for the children. How can we help our children get through the part so they don't have to be inundated with things that we should have done? Okay, so again, this is the table of contents. One section that I want to just briefly go over, and it's just about communication, which is actually covered in part 2. When you talk about communication, how it's great that you have this resource, but how do you bring it up with your family? How do you bring it up with your spouse? How do you bring it up with your parents? Because nobody wants to talk about getting your affairs in order. As I said, they're going to think, why are you bringing it up? I'm not ready to die. So why are we bringing it up? So this chapter basically was contributed by my nursing classmate who actually took care of 3 or 4 of her relatives. So she has the experience on how to gently bring this topic up, okay? On the same token, it's a way to communicate with your loved ones, your children, how to convey your wishes early. And what I mean by that is, I have a friend whose nephew, when his father died, all he wanted was the gold watch his father had. And he never conveyed that to his father. So guess what? When his father passed away, it did not go to him. And how tragic is that? Wouldn't it have been easier if he had just communicated with his father, or his father took the children aside and said, when my time comes, is there something special that you would like from me? Or to give away belongings now. And I'm not talking about real estate because that's something totally different. But jewelry, things that you can give away and see your spouse, your children enjoy it while they can. Okay? So again, the name of the book is Wait, Don't Die Yet, and part 3 is the guidebook. What I recommend people do is get an erasable pen. There's a good one by Friction, Frixion. And I say erasable because that way you can update it whenever you need to update it, okay? This is the table of contents of the guidebook, and as you can see, it is quite extensive. I've tried to cover everything as much as possible. There's things like attorney information, we have your will and trust, where are they located? Talks about your finances, your taxes, your bank accounts, your credit cards, your home. Do you still have a mortgage on it? Your home insurance, who's the agent in case you need something, right? And things like that. It talks about your real estate, your retirement accounts, Social Security, life insurance. So it even talks about long-term care, okay? And they're all separated to the before section. This is your medical section that I went over briefly earlier. There's a miscellaneous section about your automobiles. Who's your auto insurance with? Do you have a safety deposit box? Who is it with? How about your regular hired help? If something were to happen to you and your husband took care of everything and you need an electrician or a plumber that he's used for years and you have no record of it. So this is just to make life easier for those who follow behind you, okay? Then there's a part about the during. When you go to the hospital, what do they want you to bring? It talks about long-term care. What is considered long-term care? What are the criteria for long-term care to qualify if you do have a long-term care plan? And then the after checklist, okay? What I have in the next 2 pages, I just want to show you just how simple it is to fill out this guidebook, okay? People are going to say, Annette, I don't have time. I just don't have time to fill out this guidebook, okay? The guidebook takes up about 1/3 of my book. However, out of that 1/3, remember the before, during, after, and after the after? You're only going to be filling out the section that pertains to that phase of life you're in. So if you're healthy right now, that's the only section you fill out is the before. When your spouse gets sick or needs to go to a care home, then you go to the during section, that transition period. So as you can see, it's a simple thing to fill out, like just a sample of IRAs and Roth IRAs. who's the recipient, your company name, address, phone number, agent. If you're taking required minimum distributions, have you taken it? How is it being deposited? Is it direct deposit? If you're not taking the required minimum distribution, at what age do you need to take it? So that it's a reminder to you to get on the board and get things moving here, okay? This is a sample of the medical history and care page, part of it. Who's your health insurance with? Are you an organ donor? And does your family know if you're an organ donor? Do you have an advance directive? Where is this located, right? And then there's a list of physicians, and I've included enough spaces, hopefully, for every ologist that you have, whether it's a cardiologist, hematologist, oncologist, optometrist, everyone is the space for everyone. So you don't have to, you will know this just by glancing at the book. I have used this so many times. So anyway, this is another section about your vital statistics. You need to get many copies of your birth certificate, social security, marriage certificate, divorce decree. Don't wait until you need it, okay? I know that while we're in COVID, it was taking like up to 4 months to get any of the certificates. So this is something you want to do now while you're able to. And while we're on this, I'm trying to remember, why I needed it, but some company needed my in-laws marriage certificate. And, you don't even think about things like that. So just keep that in mind, okay? And this is about your pets. Now, as much as we can fill out this booklet, have our will, trust, and everything made, what good is it if nobody can find it, right? So in the last section of the book, which is an appendix, I put away that I file my papers, and I took the best of what I could from all different areas, and I put it together. And I hope that for people who have never done a file system, that they will look at this and try to follow it as closely as possible. My file system is color coded, and I think it's a great system. All my things are in red. Basically, the file system in red. And then my husband's is in blue, our finances is in green, our real estate's in yellow. And basically it's set up that way. And I know it works because I put my husband through the test and he passed with flying colors. And if your spouse can pass with flying colors, I mean, that's all I can ask for, right? So again, the name of my book is Wait, Don't Die Yet. And it is a free ebook. I've offered it free just to get the word out there, just to get people moving to do what they can to get ready and not wait till the last minute, okay? The website that you get the book from is AnnetteKam.com, that's one word. All you do is you put your email address in, and a few minutes later, you'll get the link to download it. I do not send out spam, I can promise you that. You will get 2 emails. One is for the link of the book, and maybe about 2 weeks later, you'll get a link, not a link, but an email asking you if you find it valuable, then if you would consider leaving a review on Amazon, because that is how the book gets out there, okay? Below that website, AnnetteKam.com, is my email address, which is also in my book, in case people have any questions. And I've just been overwhelmed with, emails of great finesse. If you think that this is something that maybe you don't need, may I urge you to just go on Amazon, look at the reviews, because there are so many there, unsolicited reviews that tell me how glad that they got the book because they thought they were ready and realized how much they weren't ready. I'm happy to let you know that in the 2 years that it's been out, we hit the 10,000 mark of people downloading the book or purchasing the book, and it's reached 35 states and 12 countries at last count. So I know we're making an impact, and I'm just asking you to help me make an impact. Download the book and the guidebook for free. If you think that you can benefit from it, your clients can benefit from it, I would love to just partner with you or just get the word out there that this resource is there and that if they would just take advantage of it, they don't have to worry. You know, when their time comes, they can be assured that things are in order and that they can leave the family in peace and not have to worry. That the family can grieve, not have to be just overwhelmed with all the challenging things that I went through. So thank you so very much for giving me time to speak about my passion. And I will stop here, and if anybody has any questions.
All right. If everyone could put any questions that they have for Annette into the chat box, I'll read them out loud, then for Annette to answer. And I also left Annette's website, AnnetteKam.com, in the chat box as well. All right, any questions? It's like, seems like you're getting a lot of thanks, Annette. You're getting a lot of thank you messages.
Well, you know, I'm just thankful for all of you for allowing me to be here. And you know, we all have such a job to do to help get the word out to people we love, to our clients, and that's all I care. That's all I care about. So as long as I have this calling to do what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to be here for anyone that needs my help. Feel free to email me at any time.
Okay. Seems like there is a question. For the keys, how would you identify what keys belong to?
Okay. What I do is I don't have very many keys, but you can either let your spouse know there's a code, like you can number them if you want to, and let your spouse know the list of the keys. Or all I do is, like, we have a few properties, and all I do is put like the first three numbers of the property, so I know what property it belongs to, at the beginning of the address. But I just use one of those label makers at the smallest print and just cut it off and tape it onto my key. You know, and it's interesting you ask this question because even after I wrote this book, my husband didn't do what I told him to. And he called me one day saying, can you bring me my mailbox key? And I went, where's your mailbox key? And so he had a bunch of keys in his drawer. And there were at least 8 keys on there. And I said, okay, I took a picture. I said, which one is it? And so that was just a first-hand experience of how important it is that you label your keys, or at least have a place where it's sort of labeled and you know there's a key to the key, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay, next question. Any tips to avoid or minimize sibling squabbles?
Oh my gosh, this is a hot topic, you know. There's so many incidences. I can't even tell you how many of sibling squabbles. You know, I think the best I can tell you is that you've got to get this out in the open while you're still living. You know, while you're still living, you can explain. You can, like, say there's 2 kids or 3 kids, and you're going to give the house to one person. You know, to not, I don't know how to explain this, but you don't want to just, when you die, oh, the others find out the house went to just one sibling. You know, if you can sit down and explain, and I've seen situations like this where the parents sit down, explain to the 2 kids, this is what you're getting, and this is why. Okay. And I think it takes the pressure off the one who inherits the house. You know, there's a example that I had, which is really sad, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this could have been avoided. I have a friend whose mother-in-law is living with him and his wife, and she really belongs in a care home. I mean, the care that she needs is so much, but because he loves her, he and his wife are taking care of his mother-in-law. The sister has nothing to do with her, you know, the mother-in-law's daughter. And the reason why is that the sister doesn't want to put her in a nursing care home because she knows that the money in the bank is going to belong to her, and she doesn't want to pay it down. Okay, so these are things that are really sad. Or people that I had a classmate found out that he was so good about taking care of his mother's things. He had everything ready for his mother. He was paying his mother's nursing care home facility bill, and he passed away and didn't take care of any of his own stuff. And it was like, okay, now where does the money come from to pay for the mother and the mother's care? So these are the nightmare stories that you hear, and these are the things that you need to discuss ahead of time. You know, one book that I really highly recommend is called Being Mortal, and it talks about communication. You know, what is your quality of life? What is important to you? And at what point in time do you want to be kept alive? You know, it's all about communication. And I hope that this has opened up many eyes today. I'm sorry, that was a long answer, I guess. Anything else?
Yes, there is a question. Is your book available in the bookstore? I'm assuming this person is like thinking about like places like Barnes and Nobles, like physical brick and mortar bookstores.
Mostly online. I know locally, and I know a lot of you are from the Big Island, but locally it's being sold at New Hope Christian Church on Sand Island Road. It's also available on Amazon.com. And I do have, if you live on the island, I do have many copies that I can give to you at a discount. Okay. I don't make money off of this. It's just a way of getting it out there. So if you want the book and you live here locally, you have my email address, buck1@aol.com. You know, please feel free to email me and I can get that to you. Okay. The book on Amazon is $22 for the paperback, but I sell them personally for $15, and it's just basically cover shipping and all that. Anything else?
Yes. Is there a section explaining what happens if you die without any remaining family? Who does everything then?
I did not cover that. I believe that a lot of things that are not covered in the book is something to be spoken with attorneys, your own attorney, because every situation differs. So no, I did not cover that part.
Next question. I think we'll take this as a final question for today. How can I deal with procrastination?
Good question. Okay. That is a question of a lifetime, because we know we have to do it and we don't. Now, what I would first of all ask you to do is download the book, download the guidebook. And one of my favorite books that I've read is called, oh shucks, I'm blanking out. But it's called Mini Habits. And it's by this guy named Stephen Guys. And what he says is, you know, many of us procrastinate. And so I read his book. And when I was writing my book, he talks about if you can devote just 5 minutes a day, just commit to 5 minutes a day, what will happen is that you'll find out that all of a sudden the 5 minutes turns into 10 minutes, it turns into an hour. And this is so true, because when I was writing my book, I thought, surely I can turn my computer on for 5 minutes. And then I ended up writing for 2 hours. Because once you get the momentum, once you see what you can accomplish in a short period of time, there's something that kicks in saying, I can do more. And I honestly believe you can do the whole guidebook, that part that for the before section, you can finish it in 3 weeks or less. You know, I'm teaching a class at Lanakila right now, and they have a whole year to do it, you know. But I honestly believe you can do it in about 3 weeks, as long as you put your mind to it and just, number one, just get started. You know, just open it up. Even if you say, I'll do a page a day, you know, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to do a page a day. You're going to end up doing 4, 5, 6 pages at least. And once you start, that's just the momentum, and you just keep it going, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting journey. And once you get through that guidebook, I can only tell you, what a sense of achievement that you will have, because you will know that you've left your family in a lot of peace when it's time for you to go, and even, many of us are in our, 70s, 60s, 70s. Many of us still have parents and they haven't done a thing. And it's really time to sit them down and talk to them, because you love them and they love you. Hopefully, they will sit down and get this thing done. It's that important. We need to get our mission out there, that this is so important.
All right, looks like there's no more questions in the chat box. All right, thank you for everyone for your questions. I'm gonna now pass it over to Charlene, who will give the closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Annette. That was very helpful. And I think that if we all get over our procrastination, do that 5 minutes a day, a year from now, we can all say we're at peace with ourselves and our families. So thank you for your message. And again, giving the free guidebook for all of us who participated. Thank you very much. And for everybody, just to let you know, our next topic next month on June 1st will be protecting your asset protection by Scott McCulkani. So we want to be relevant to our senior council division and bring you very helpful topics. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Annette.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.